I basically live on the couch. I get here around 9 o'clock at night, and that's when I pass out. That's when I wake up at 6 in the morning.
I basically live on the couch. I get here around 9 o'clock at night, and that's when I pass out. That's when I wake up, 6:00 in the morning. Tony Beets' family stayed quiet for months while rumors exploded online. Fans wouldn't stop asking about the fights they saw on camera, Monica's heated arguments with her father, Kevin's sudden decision to leave the family business, Mike taking over operations while Tony stepped back. The speculation got so wild that people claimed Tony was broke, sick, or secretly retiring. Finally, the Beets family decided to speak up. What they revealed about the real tensions behind the scenes will shock you. The truth about Tony's future was nothing like the rumors suggested. Tony Beets was born on December 15, 1959 in Vens, a small Dutch village near the North Sea where the wind never stopped and life moved slow. His childhood was filled with the smell of barns and the weight of chores that never ended. By the time he was 10, he was already milking cows before sunrise and fixing old machinery after school. The fields around him felt endless and wet, and the work felt like a test that never paused. Still, he pushed through it because that was the only life he knew. Those early years shaped him long before he ever touched a gold pan. They gave him a backbone built in mud and tractor grease, not in classrooms or easy comfort. Everything changed in 1974. Tony was 14 when his father had a terrible accident that left him unable to work again. Suddenly, the whole farm rested on Tony's shoulders. He handled the chores, the livestock, the repairs, and even told older workers what to do. It was strange at first, ordering grown men around, but someone had to keep a farm alive. By 16, he was working 16 hours a day and making decisions that most adults avoided. He learned quickly that leadership did not care about age. It only cared about grit, and grit was the one thing he had plenty of. Still, something inside him kept pulling. By his late teens, the flat fields of Friesland felt too small. The wages were low, often so low that young men around him could not afford cars or even simple houses. He watched people work their whole lives just to barely survive. That thought scared him. He wanted a place where work carried rewards, not just exhaustion. He began looking at jobs abroad. First factories, then oil work. But each option felt like a different version of the same trap. He wanted more than survival. He wanted a chance to rise. As these stories traveled across the Atlantic, they changed everything. People whispered about Canada, about men making over $1,000 a week in Alberta. That number was huge to Tony. It felt like the door he had been waiting for. In 1980, he and Minnie gathered their savings, about $1,200, and boarded a plane with almost no English and no idea what waited for them. They landed in Abbotsford, and Tony took a job milking cows for $4 an hour. It stung because he had done the same work back in Whitens for more money. Even then, he kept searching. He moved to construction, then listened closely when miners talked about the Yukon. In March 1981, he drove to Dawson City, hoping for a job, only to find the season had not begun. He turned back to British Columbia, worked in the oil fields for $15 an hour, then returned to the Yukon when the ground thawed. In 1984, he finally got the call he'd been waiting for. A mining company wanted him back. He arrived in the Klondike, still carrying the temper and ambition of a farm kid who had spent his whole life pushing against limits. He started small, working for others, running machines, learning how claims work, and figuring out who made money and who only pretended to. Within a decade, he had his own crew. By the 2000s, he was running one of the toughest mining operations in the region. The Discovery Channel would later carry his name around the world, but his climb began long before the cameras came. It began with long nights, frozen ground, and stubbornness learned in a Dutch farm. When Tony and Minnie first came to Canada in 1980, they had just $300 between them. English came slowly, learned mostly on construction sites, and by watching soap operas with Minnie. The Yukon dream grew stronger each year because every job they took felt temporary. Tony believed that real success came from owning something, not renting his time to someone else. He kept chasing that chance. In early 1981, he bought a ticket to Whitehorse on Lido, realize again that the mining season was still months away. He returned to Alberta, worked a few more oil jobs, and came back when the ice melted. His first mining work in Dawson City was for Tamarack Inc. He ran dozers and excavators through 16-hour shifts while the wind cut through layers of clothes. The work hurt, but the pay and the potential kept him going. He watched the top miners earn more in a season than he had seen in years back in the Netherlands. Slowly, he learned every corner of the business. He fixed machines that others called hopeless and worked hours that most men avoided. People on the crew saw how relentless he was. Some admired him, some disliked him. Many feared him, but everyone understood that he got result. These years taught him two truths. First, only the mine owner becomes truly wealthy. Second, money stays only with those who control costs and keep machines moving. He saw how often miners failed because they were careless. Tony promised himself he would never be careless. He saved every dollar he could and learned how to judge the ground. By the mid-1980s, he bought a second-hand bulldozer and staked his first claim. It was not rich ground at first, but even small scoops of gold helped him pay debts and upgrade equipment. The progress was slow, but step by step he was building something real. By 1990, he had created Tamarack Mine. That moment marked his shift from hired hand to true operator. After that, he focused on buying and expanding. Over the next years, he grabbed small leases around Paradise Hill and Indian River, slowly shaping them into a single operation. By the early 1990s, he owned some of the most productive land in the Yukon. This was the foundation his children would later help run, turning the family business into one of the biggest operations in the region. Long before the gold rush cameras arrived, locals already knew his name. They called him a legendary gold producer because his yearly numbers were far above the rest. While some miners struggled for a few hundred ounces, Tony pulled in over 5,000 ounces in a single season. His crews worked long hours, his machines kept moving, and his operation rarely paused. Rivals respected him because he knew the land better than most. They feared him because he could outproduce almost anyone. His family became part of his empire. Many took care of the finances and kept the business on track. Their kids learned the work one job at a time. Monica took on logistics. Kevin handled operations. Mike mastered the heavy equipment. Viewers watched a family business grow into something massive right in front of them. The producers leaned into that too, showing how the Beets family turned long days into legacy. This unity made the mining feel more personal, more rooted, and richer than simple gold totals. But fame created shadows as well. Online rumors started swirling every year. People said Tony was quitting. Others claimed he was broke. Some insisted he was sick. By late 2024, social media filled up with dramatic thumbnails and emotional titles hinting at his downfall. The family had to address these rumors again and again, clearing up lies that spread faster than gold dust in the wind. Once the show reached millions of viewers, Tony's life became something people debated, as if they knew him personally. That mix of truth and speculation turned him into a myth as much as a miner. His biggest gamble came with the Viking dredge. When Tony bought the 75-year-old industrial dredge from 1939, people thought he had finally lost it. The machine weighed about 350 tons and had not run since the 1980s. It sat frozen in time at Clear Creek until Tony spent a full $1 million to make it his. He believed its power could pull gold from ground other miners ignored. He pictured seasons where the dredge might bring in 7.5 million in gold if the ground was rich enough. The numbers tempted him. A normal wash plant handles a few hundred tons of dirt daily, but the Viking could push up to 2,000 gallons of water per minute through its system. That scale mattered. Tony believed it could drop mining costs from about $1,000 per ounce to somewhere around $30 to $400 per ounce. If he could make it run, it would change everything. Getting it to run was a nightmare. The dredge had to be dismantled piece by piece. Tony and his crew hauled the huge steel parts more than 100 miles to Eureka Creek, where they spent months welding, fixing, aligning, and rebuilding. The operation used multiple cranes and over 10 miller welders, all working non-stop. During this time, no gold was being produced, but expenses kept climbing. The entire move and rebuild cost millions and pushed Tony's finances to the edge. Still, he kept going. In 2015, he got the dredge running, surprising almost everyone who thought the machine would fall apart long before it touched dirt again. Gold Rush saw the perfect storyline in all of this. Cameras captured every setback and every spark of hope. Fans argued weekly about whether Tony was a visionary or a fool. His family questioned the risk in private moments, and those moments made the episodes even stronger. People watched because the dredge was more than a machine. It was Tony's proof that he could outthink the modern world. And even though the dredge never hit its full potential, the gamble made him unforgettable. He showed that old engineering and sheer stubbornness could still shake up an entire industry, yet one of Tony's most dramatic moments had nothing to do with gold. In October 2014, he let his crew film a stunt that would follow him for years. A contractor named Mark Favren poured gasoline into a dredge pond and set it on fire. The flames rose into the dark Yukon sky while Tony stood there shouting his line about hell or high water. It aired in February 2015 during the episode Hundreds of Ounces. The scene looked incredible on screen, but viewers complained and Yukon officials took notice. The fire that seemed entertaining for a few minutes led to an investigation for environmental violations. The charges were serious. Tony and his company Tamarack Incorporated were accused of allowing waste to enter a water management area and failing to report it. They also faced charges for breaking water license rules. When the case went to court, Tony was fined $6,000 and Tamarack was fined $25,000. The total hit was $31,000. Judge Peter Chisholm said Tony could have stopped the stunt, but chose not to. The prosecution wanted higher fines up to $50,000, but the court settled on a number they felt sent a strong enough message. During the trial, the court replayed the clip of Tony standing in front of the flames again and again. The judge said Tony took part in the spectacle for the cameras and never tried to prevent it. That line between mining and TV blurred in the worst way, and Tony ended youping for it when reporters waited outside the courthouse afterward. Tony said nothing. He walked away without apology or explanation. His silence only strengthened his image as someone who does not bend for regulators or public pressure. It also reminded everyone that reality TV drama can spill into the real world with real consequences. Tony Beets began season 15 like a man racing the clock, and for a moment it felt like nothing in the Yukon could slow him down. In the first 2 weeks alone, he pulled 774 ounces of gold from his Indian River claim. It was close to $1.9 million, and it set a new personal record for the fastest start in his 40-year mining career. He pushed 2 wash plants into action earlier than planned, and the gamble worked. While other crews dealt with broken machines and slow starts, Tony's camp moved like it had been waiting all winter to explode into motion. Every pan, every cleanup, every long night at Indian River added to the feeling that this season could be something historic. Then everything flipped. A single beaver blocked a culvert in November 2025, and the early bird cut went underwater. It was the only producing site he had of time. The culvert backup flooded the whole cup until the ground turned into Ashalau Lake. Slowing stopped. The wash plant went quiet. Crews stood beside rushing water instead of gravel. When Tony ordered everyone to shut it all down and clear the blockage, the pause lasted days. Fans online wondered if this was the start of a bad run or something bigger. The timing was rough. After such a strong opening, the sudden silence made people think his empire was slipping, and rumors spread fast across social platforms that love to magnify every setback. Soon, clips began to circulate about Tony.